Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. Happy to have you guys along for the next 3 hours. You know the number. Real easy. 615-737-1045. Because what did Lucas say to me as the music was playing, as we were getting ready to open up the radio show? Welcome you back from a restful and relaxing weekend, perhaps?
Everybody's pissed.
Everybody's pissed.
Vols fan, Titans fans. It's week one, baby.
Woo!
Interesting phrasing by you to open up the show.
Football.
You say good morning, is it?
Oh, well, listen, I mean, I understand. I slept better than I ever have after one of these things. I came home last night as opposed to schlepping home from New Orleans at 5 a.m. this morning. So I feel rested. I'm relaxed. I'm ready to talk about, well, that nightmare for 3 hours yesterday. We'll save more of the Vols commentary for tomorrow, I imagine, because what the hell was that against Austin Peay? Perhaps some running commentary throughout the course of the show. But yes, the Titans, they fall in their season opener, 16-15 to the New Orleans Saints. A game that we like to do one word to describe a situation, one word to describe a performance. My one word for yesterday is unpleasant. That was a very unpleasant football game to witness. The Saints had a couple of chunk plays that made you feel like you were watching actual football, but for the most part, it was just kind of bleh. But it was week one bleh all over the place, apparently. Damn it, I already got a text. I was lucky that you didn't hear it because the music is...
No, I heard it. Who is it?
No, it's the damn Gamblers Digest group text. These people send me 75 messages a day. Apparently, they're gambling on things throughout the course of the day, 5 days a week. I'm concerned about their well-being. Unpleasant. That was the experience yesterday for Tennessee and probably for Saints fans for a period. But the Titans let them back in it on multiple occasions, and none more so than the Ryan Tannehill performance, the worst by quarterback rating of his career. Worse than 41-7 against Buffalo after they pulled him. Worse by a substantial margin than the Cincinnati Bengals playoff collapse as the number one overall seed. The game that many of you dislike him the most for. But last night, I came away with it after talking to Ryan Tannehill, after speaking to Mike Vrabel, after doing the locker room, being in New Orleans, and just seeing a level of anger that I don't quite recall, because Bengals game was shell-shocked, like stunned, and then the anger came, right? It was a slower burn, because seeing you guys at preseason games the following season heading into 2022, the first time in Nissan Stadium, some of you still look shook. Like it was a degree of just, I don't know what just happened there.
Are you saying anger from the fan base or anger from Ryan Tannehill, Mike Vrabel, and Titans players?
The fan base, because I thought Tannehill and Vrabel were a bit tone deaf in the way that they responded to that last night. They don't owe anybody an explanation, despite how you may think of this, all right? They don't have to tell you or what happened on interceptions 1, 2, and 3. Because I just asked it. I asked Tannehill the question as simply as, hey, can you just kind of walk us through it? Because you know what? Sometimes we miss things. That press box in New Orleans, it's 1,000 feet in the air. I didn't know Christian Fulton was back in on third downs till I asked him about it in the locker room prior to him giving up the 41-yard completion that allowed the Saints to ice the game. So you know what? Benefit of the doubt. Explain to me what it is that you saw. And the way that he responded, man, it just kind of fell flat.
Yeah, it's a sick feeling in your gut, obviously. Didn't go out and play the way we wanted to play. Weren't good enough in the red zone. Missed opportunities, mistakes, all of it, So, there was a couple bright spots, but on the whole, just have to be better in a lot of different areas.
Can you walk us through the interceptions from your standpoint?
Hey, it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, you can walk through whatever. At the end of the day, whether it doesn't matter what happened. Turnovers, and we have to eliminate those to give ourselves a chance to win the game.
He's right. It doesn't matter. You don't buy yourself any grace by explaining the interceptions after you've just lost by 1 in a game that felt eminently winnable. You don't really benefit at all from telling people exactly what went down there. And nor is Vrabel going to, be for that. Mike kind of I don't want to say shrugged off the decision-making questions and deferred back to we've all got to play better, we've all got to coach better. Like, you could do the Vrabel press conference. And by the way, it's never going to be something that's not that because that's just not the way that it's going to be. Like, I know you want this moment of honesty. I know you want this moment of rawness, transparency. For our sake, that'd be great to have a little more, I don't know, real. But from them, it just kind of, it fell on deaf ears a little bit when you asked them about it. And it's the first time in a while that I came away saying the thing that a lot of you guys say to me on a regular basis, which is kind of same old Titans, man. Like, it's the first time that I've really felt like that. Like, just the same old experience, an offense that underwhelms, a defensive performance that is by far and away good enough to win the game until their back breaks because of 41-yard completion at the end, and you just can't hold them down for that long. 16 points for an NFL defense to stifle them in the red zone the way that they did, even after giving up chunk plays. Gave themselves plenty of opportunities to win the game, and then just the coach better, play better stuff. Like, I get it. I know why they do it. I understand that it benefits them none to say anything other than that.
And it was pretty clear cut, right?
Yeah, he sucked. He was bad.
It was decision-making.
Bad.
And poor execution.
Bad.
Straight up. Plays that were there and plays that just weren't there. Forcing them into the plays that weren't there and just not executing what was there.
I don't know if you guys played, and you guys will take your phone calls throughout the course of the day. You know, we don't do guests on Monday, especially after Titans games, because I was there. I talked to a bunch of people, and we got a lot of stuff to get to. But Friday, after I left the radio show and went over to the practice facility, right? I didn't get to be there in time for practice, but I was there in time for Vrabel and locker room. And after Mike Vrabel was telling us about the Tim Shaw, Steve Gleason stuff, he was talking about the longer practice week and how they have to kind of like, maintain their focus. It's a longer week of work leading up to a game than these guys will have. So we've got to make sure that they're locked in on situations. The quote was, "Don't chase ghosts and start fast." You don't start any faster than forcing a fumble on the opponent's opening kickoff return. You don't start any faster than getting the opportunity at, their 23? At the opponent's 23 to try and score and a drive lose 8 yards. You don't get many more opportunities than they were offered last night, and they just went out and damn squandered them. And the craziest thing was, we did the pregame show yesterday with Blaine and Mickey and Kayla and me, and we were talking about Derrick Henry. And I said, it would be swell, and I think we did a little bit of this on the radio show last week, or maybe it was primetime, I can't remember. But, I'd like to see Derrick do a little less. I'd like to see them be less Derrick dependent. Unless it's the thing that makes the most sense. He had, in that game, we'll talk about Derrick Henry's usage. You'll hear from Derrick Henry. In fact, why don't we get some phone calls first, and then we'll get into the Derrick Henry stuff? Because overall, there's a lot of things to go piece by piece with on this game, and you'll hear from Mike Vrabel at noon. I will tell you that as lackluster as I feel the immediate post-game press conferences are, Mondays after the game when Mike's had the opportunity to watch the whole thing back with the staff, those are typically the more valuable press conferences. So you'll hear from the head coach at noon. So we'll do the Derrick Henry stuff here in just a second. Let's get to some phone calls. 615-737-1045. How about Connor in Johnson City?
Hey, Buck. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, good morning. I know you guys started the show off with saying everybody's pissed. Believe it or not, I'm not surprised. I did think Tannehill, we're going to hear it all morning. He played terrible. It was awful. Throws were terrible. You're missing 2 free touchdowns to Chig and Spears. The interception to Moore. You look at Chig, he's wide open. We're doing a lot of 5 wide and leaning away from Derrick Henry in the second half. It's terrible. And you touched on Christian Fulton giving away that big play. Defense played great outside of that. It's just terrible quarterback play. The refs were horrendous, but that's not what lost us the game. That's kind of being overshadowed by the offensive performance. And I think Vrabel and Tim Kelly got out coached yesterday. Going for it on 4th down with a little over 2 minutes left, kicking the field goal. I think they should have went for it. I understand trusting the defense, but you got to have some guts and go for something. Get something going. because they had all 3 timeouts plus that 2-minute warning. You're deep in Saints territory. I don't agree with that. So really, the offensive line was bad, but I mean, he didn't. There's no bootlegs that getting him out in space. It was atrocious.
Connor, we appreciate it because you did just 3 hours of show in 1 minute of phone call, but we do go 60 seconds.
I'm going home. Connor kind of touched all the bases on that one.
He even had the 4th down stuff.
Yes, I will see you tomorrow.
Do we even need to finish the show? Like, I think Connor just did the show.
Kind of just summed it up.
Well, I can't do it quite that quickly. I have a little bit more work to do throughout the course of the day, so I'm sorry, bud. No, we can't go home yet. But I will say, Connor, 60 seconds on the clock for the Oscars music, because I anticipate many of you have thoughts today. I'm trying to make life as easy on Lucas as humanly possible, because the phones, I feel like if you touch the receiver today, it might burn your hand. Like, people are pissed. So we'll talk about the Derrick Henry usage. Like I said, Mike Vrabel will speak at noon. We'll carry the press conference live. Tim Kelly's debut is worth also dissecting beyond just Derrick Henry's usage. A lot of things to dissect today, but hey, at least you got a kicker.
Saints have 9 in the box. Play fake, blitz coming. They screen it to Henry. He's got some room. 35-40. Henry 50. Henry 40. Henry 35-30. And he's tackled at the 25-yard line.
Go! That's Titans radio on the call. Now, you may ask, though, that sounds like a good highlight. That sounds like Derrick Henry had himself a day. But in a 16-15 loss, that would be one of the few highlights, and he would be one of the few players on offense to actually have a day. Derrick Henry, that was the longest completion for Ryan Tannehill of the day. 46 yards, a screen pass to the left in the second quarter. 46 yards on the gain, as I mentioned. It was the longest play of the game. It was longer than the 45-yard completion that Carr had to Olave in the third quarter when New Orleans had, what was it, a 3rd and 3? Derrick Henry's usage yesterday is something that is going to be a talking point. Of course, the phone lines, there are not many open, but we will get to you guys as we go. Lucas, you said you had a stat for me on carries specifically, because the number of carries that Derrick Henry got yesterday, it's rare when I can accuse them of not using Derrick Henry enough.
Bit of irony in that performance and in the complaints from Titans fans, just given what the complaints have been about the Titans offense over the course of the last 2 or so years under Todd Downing. But can you tell me the last time in a Tennessee Titans game, Ryan Tannehill had 30 or more pass attempts with Derrick Henry having 15 or less carries in the same game?
Oh, my God. Has it ever happened?
It's happened. Yes. Has happened.
I would guess it was 2020.
2019,
okay.
November 3rd, the 30-20 loss at the Carolina Panthers. So really not even in this era of Titans football that we consider to be the Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry era, right? That was before things sort of clicked.
That was I think that was Tannehill's second game, because the Chargers at home was the first game that they started in.
Yeah.
And I think the Carolina loss because Deion Lewis.
Right. Derrick Henry kind of took a back seat in that game.
In the first half to Deion Lewis, and Deion, I mean, it looked like they had a decent play, and Deion Lewis was finding space, and then he fumbled. I remember just looking around and be like, all right, enough of this. You're the 280-pound running back, and not this little guy you're trying to, bob and weave out between these defenders who looks like he's going to spontaneously combust on every play when you try and get him to carry it through between the tackles. It was insanity.
It's very ironic to me, because what's been the biggest complaint about Todd Downing, especially last season?
Derrick's his crutch.
Right. First, second down runs, over-reliance on Derrick Henry. Complete opposite yesterday. And we're talking about not utilizing Derrick Henry enough. There is an ironic tinge to the complaints. Not to say that they're unfair complaints. They have every right to be.
They are fair complaints.
There was a point where Derrick Henry was almost averaging 8 yards per carry, and they go away from him in the run game. And Tyjae Spears is getting more snaps, but not more carries. Henry had less than 50% of the Titans' offensive snaps.
Think about that.
In New Orleans yesterday.
Think about that.
And it's not like the Saints were penetrating, right? They had 1 tackle for loss on the day.
It felt like every time they dropped back to pass, Tannehill was getting mugged.
I'm talking about in the run game.
No. What I'm saying is, like I was just getting ready to differentiate.
Yeah, okay.
Every time Tannehill dropped back to pass, he'd get mugged, right? He's getting mugged. The pressure's in his face right away. He's having to throw it away. He's ball's batted down. Then, of course, his own poor decision-making in the middle of that. And by the way, we told you Dennis Allen was tough to play against. Like, I'm not excusing the performance, but like that as a week 1 opponent is gnarly, and they made life a living hell. But what was the biggest flaw in the Saints defense last year? Their rushing defense.
Yeah, run defense.
They were one of the worst rush defense in the sport last year. And teams turn over, teams make adjustments. But that was not something that they seem to have necessarily adjusted to, at least if the first half was evidence of anything. Because Derrick Henry finished that game with 15 carries, Lucas. 10 of them were in the first half. He had 51 yards in the first half alone on those 10 carries. He finished the game with a total of 63.
Isn't that interesting to have such a dominant pass rush, but the run defense be so inconsistent and be kind of a liability?
It depends on, and I don't think Dennis Allen would answer this question straightly if you asked him, but I wonder if there's a degree of this with defensive coordinators where you're willing to live a little bit with giving up some rushing yards. Because one, you're just, you're bleeding time off the clock. If you're Dennis Allen, you probably are playing a different kind of game control style there. And I'm not saying that's what was happening, but I assume that in the NFL today that there is an emphasized focus on pass defense, and you're willing to live with a little bit more in the run because it's a less efficient way to move the ball down the field, and you know that this team is going to do that. And so if they think they're getting what they want with the running game, and maybe you're lulling them into a false sense of security because as soon as you set up that play-action pass, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have that double covered for you when you miss Chig and then go to Chris Moore, who, yes, there should have well been a defensive pass interference on that play. But the point is, I think they were, you thought that Chris Moore was not impeded coming back to the ball?
He was, but I'm saying these things even out, right? I thought the no call on Molden.
Oh, no, absolutely. Molden should have been flagged.
Should have been first and goal.
Molden should have been flagged, and we'll talk about the damn officiating.
Yeah.
But both sides, I'm saying,
it's not why the Titans lost.
I have forsaken any, interest in trying to fault officiating for anything because it's equally awful on both sides. And I know that we have had, people who do high school officiating or umpiring and things like that who have explained to us the degree of difficulty. I am not discounting that at all. I am just saying that despite the degree of difficulty, the product that is being produced by the officials is still poor. Both things can be so. Now,
but to your point of run defense, the Titans are the perfect example of elite run defense not necessarily leading to wins.
No, because that's not – Saints were like, all right, we'll try it. And then when it wasn't working, we'll go 45 yards here, 41 yards here. I mean, they had 5 plays of 20 yards or more, and that wasn't including the touchdown pass, the only damn touchdown of the day. The pass from Carr to Shaheed, the wide receiver wearing 22, even though I think the returner basically, that was a 19-yard play. So the scoring play, just under 20 yards, 5 other plays of 20 yards or more. They were getting chunk plays in the passing game and saying, we're not going to be able to run the football, and you'd like to be a little more balanced, I guess, but you can't have it all, and we're moving the ball this way. Now, they stalled in the red zone, but finally they broke through. And I think this is some of, while there were differences from a deployment standpoint with the Titans offense yesterday, it did feel like their shortcomings were the same. It can be a different system. The usage, the tendencies can be different. But the sustainability of drives, what were they yesterday on third down? Did you look at their third down number?
Oh, I underlined and highlighted it.
I am telling you, I have not seen a third down number like that since 2020. It is one of the poorest performances that a Tennessee Titans offense has had. 2 for 12, 16.7. I didn't have a stapler, so I had to use one of these, what do you call these? These little clamp clips? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what
the little black clamp clips. It's not a very efficient way to flip through these things, especially when I printed it double sides. Yes, 16.7%. Thank you for saving me the time.
0 for 6 in third down efficiency in the first half.
And they were 0 for 7 until they finally got one. It was a sustainability issue. And then when they had red zone opportunities, the first drive was not a red zone opportunity because the offense started at the 24 and was backed up 8 yards because of false starts. And listen, Superdome, ungodly place to play. I was expecting operational penalties. I was expecting an atmosphere that by far and away exceeded any expectations I had. That's my favorite NFL atmosphere that I've been a part of.
Can you tell me how many false start penalties they had yesterday off the top of your head? I went back and tracked them all, looking at the play-by-play on the game book this morning.
2 from Wesco in the first drive. Chig had one. Brewer had one.
Brewer did not.
Brewer got called for a hold.
Yes. 5. Excuse me. I'm sorry. 4. 4 false start penalties, not a single one on an offensive lineman. How unique is that?
Wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Because Traylon was one.
It was Wesco, Chig, Burks, and D-Hop.
Yeah.
Because early on, D-Hop reacts. Obviously, the Saints D lineman crosses the neutral zone. D-Hop's trying to react to Prump. He took too long to react. And so it's a false start. I don't know if I've ever seen that. I'm not typically going back and tracking false start penalties.
No, we've looked at enough of them because the offensive line was largely an issue last year.
But 4 or more false start penalties on the Titans, and all of them on skill position players.
That's wild. So, yes, maybe not same old Titans. That was a new way to lose a game. I haven't seen that before. I don't recall that before. The Derrick Henry thing, though, I can't play both sides because there is a part of me that looks at that and says, if you value Derrick Henry beyond this season, make his life easier. And, 15 carries for Derrick. It's not like he's had fewer carries in a game. He's had games where they've gone away from him before. It's not like it's never happened before, but it is so infrequent. And when it is the thing that is giving you the most amount of success, again, I don't know if that was a part of Dennis Allen's game plan. Because thinking about it more, I could see a scenario where they're talking about it in their meetings and be like, yeah, let them have a little. Let them have a little on the ground. That's okay. We'll figure it out. Burks, by the way, where are you, sir? Other than the false start, he had the drop. He had 3 targets, 2 catches, and was largely a non-factor. Separation was non-existent from these receivers. And the opportunities that they had when plays were being created for them by Tim Kelly, who we'll talk about a little more later on, Tannehill's inaccuracies. I mean, my God. We are going to dedicate basically the noon hour to the Tannehill discussion because I came in here for the first time, and I disagree almost entirely with the way that Ryan Tannehill is being discussed today, but I'm going to wait till noon to explain to you what I mean about that.
So when you say same shortcomings, like, yes, red zone efficiency was a problem throughout all of last season and was a problem yesterday.
No, red zone efficiency wasn't a problem. The problem they weren't getting to the red zone.
Excuse me. Third down efficiency. That's what I meant.
Third down efficiency.
So, but that's my point. When you say same shortcomings, because red zone efficiency, a problem yesterday, was not a problem last season or prior.
Which is what we'll talk about at 11.
So I see what you're saying in same shortcomings, but really I just look at third down efficiency, and it was a different path to that shortcoming. But otherwise, I've been kind of perplexed by the same old Titans thing. Like, same old Titans, yes, and that the offense struggled, but they took a completely different path to get there. They struggled in a completely different way than we've gotten used to under Todd Downing.
Right. I think that when you look at the inefficiency on third down, when you look at the inability to protect the quarterback in obvious passing situations, when you look at the way that they were often in obvious passing situations, it felt that it was the same kind of trajectory for a Titans game that I had covered. An offense that languishes when they really shouldn't, when there are opportunities there to be had, an offense that misses opportunities, a defense that keeps them in the game until finally the dam breaks and there's a 41-yard completion over your head to ice the game. The only thing that was different yesterday was the special teams. And that was all well and good. The special teams were a plus until Stonehouse got one blocked. They blocked the punt. They recovered the punt. They had favorable field position. Titans defense again held them in the red zone, stopped them, stalled them out on only a field goal. But prior to that, it is a part of the story. It is a part of the reason why they lost the game. But the special teams, Nick Folk, come on down. 5 for 5. Titans got a kicker. Nobody's talking about it today. All right. Let's do some phone calls. 615-737-1045 is how you get involved. Dustin is calling us from Lincoln, Nebraska. Ooh, I don't know if Dustin is also a
rough weekend for Dustin.
Let's find out together, shall we? Hey, Dustin.
Hey, Buck. Yeah, it kind of sucks having to watch Jeff Sims throw passes on Saturday and then Tannehill throw passes on Sunday. But my question is it too much to ask to have Vrabel start calling out Tannehill publicly when he has these kind of performances? Like, I understand he's a player's coach, but he also gives off that hard-ass kind of vibe to him, so I assume that he would call out his players publicly when they're not performing.
Okay, so you think that he doesn't do it privately?
I mean, privately, most likely, but I think publicly
not most likely. Like, public. What does publicly serve other than to make you feel better?
I guess nothing other than it could potentially motivate the player a little more if they're being publicly called out instead of it being behind closed doors.
I think, when they're in front of 53 or 52 other players, an entire coaching staff in these team meetings, and Mike Vrabel is putting on their teach tape and telling them all about how badly they did that day in practice and breaking it down, I imagine that's quite sufficient. I don't think that you do any good other than to satisfy some kind of bloodthirst from the – and by the way, I understand why y'all are bloodthirsty today. I get it. It's the first time I've come in here and like been prepared for the Tannehill conversation, be like, you know what, they are totally right. But I'm going to explain a little bit. There's a different way that I'm looking at this Tannehill performance versus other bad Tannehill performances.
The public's going to be talking about Ryan Tannehill regardless of what Mike Vrabel says at the podium. We saw what happened.
So, like, what is that going to do? That's just going to lend Mike Vrabel's voice to a chorus that is already out there. And that is a completely inefficient way to try and manage a football team in week one. Week one. It's just the first week, guys. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't signs of there being a long-term problem there. But see, this is the thing that I think there's a disconnect. Fans want blood. Fans want results. These are fair demands. These are completely fair demands. To project that level of emotion or visceral emotion onto, say, your coaching staff, or when people tweet us, right? Put the pressure on them, as opposed to us asking them a question, allowing them to expand on what it is that they want to tell us about what they know that we might not have seen, giving them the opportunity to do that, sometimes maybe not to the level of emotion that, say, a fan would ask a question, right? That's something that is talked about a lot. It doesn't really accomplish anything other than to give you that immediate satisfaction in the moment to be like, oh, yeah, tell him, Mike, tell him. When in reality, I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have seen, like, Vrabel in the wild. Vrabel and I have a problem calling these dudes out. It's just not in front of a microphone that says NFL Network on it.
So Derrick Henry with 30 of the Titans' 63 offensive snaps on Sunday. Tyjae Spears with 34. Doesn't play out in the number of carries.
It's not right? No, not in the number of carries.
Spears had how many carries? 3 to Henry's 15. Spears with 4 targets, 1 catch for 1 yard. Henry, 3 targets, 2 catches, 56 yards.
A lot of you guys saying, a lot of people saying minimizing the situation does not benefit anyone. But I guess there's a difference between externalizing that. When they talk, what's the famous Chris Berman line, right? Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So instead of circling the wagons, you're asking them to outwardly take each other out. You want to see them publicly bashing one another. You want them to my understanding, you want your football team to be a little more TMZ. I just don't understand how anybody could look at that and say that's a productive way of operating, especially in the first week of the season. I know you're pissed. You know who knows he was terrible? Ryan Tannehill. You know who knows Ryan Tannehill was terrible? The coaching staff. The general manager who just drafted a second-round pick to replace him. The head coach who wasn't crazy about, my understanding, wasn't an overwhelming proponent of the Malik Willis situation, but is still looking at the quarterback situation and saying, all right, if we can find different ways to improve the football team, then we'll find different ways to improve the football team. I don't understand how to TMZ this thing, to put it in the headlines, to litigate these things publicly benefits them at all, other than to make you feel like you're having a bit more of a say in things.
I think that's all it is. I think you just want that satisfaction.
Right,
of your head coach saying the same things you are. But you have to be even-keeled about this. It's week 1. They have to play 16 more games.
No. You don't have to be even-keeled. No. You don't have to be even-keeled about that. That was the worst, by quarterback rating, his worst performance ever.
Worst of his career. He has not thrown 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions and no touchdowns since his rookie year. But, like, you can't go into preparation for week 2 with a burn-it-down mentality, right?
Oh, no. But for those who already had the burn-it-down mentality, this is here is your evidence. Here's your sign.
I'm talking about the Titans, not the fan base.
No, the Titans, but they're not the burn-it-down. Like, it's never the burn-it-down mentality. Who's burning it down? If they wanted to, this was the perfect opportunity to burn it down. If they weren't going to burn it down now, they're never going to burn it down. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is no burn-it-down mentality. There is, how can I put together the most competitive product to try and win a football game today? Not, okay, how did last week impact the way that we lost the football game? How can I win the football game today? And as I say, because now people are saying that TMZing it is an exaggeration. No, you are asking a coach at a podium in front of microphones, cameras, recording equipment, and media to say, my quarterback sucked today. He needs to know better. Now, you can say he needs to know better, and Mike Vrabel basically did. But the idea of needing to put some kind of venom behind it, to do that publicly, that is, of course, the wrong way to go about it.
We've seen this before. We've seen a week one collapse like this before. It was much worse against the Arizona Cardinals, right? As far as the score was concerned.
They were in that game.
They were never in the Arizona game.
Chandler Jones effective. No, they were in the game at the start. Didn't they score the first touchdown? I need to go back and watch that game.
In the Arizona game?
Yeah, didn't AJ score the first touchdown?
It was 10-0 in the first quarter.
No.
I'm looking.
When did AJ score the touchdown?
It was 24-6 at halftime. Kevin Byard had an interception in the third quarter.
They got railroaded in the first half.
Kind of sparked them, but then they were outscored 14-0 after that. They really were not in that game. A lot of teams had a bad week one around the NFL.
Yeah, but not that. Not the worst performance of your career. I'm not about even keel today. Even keel is no. That is too diplomatic approach.
I can think of one other guy who had maybe a worse day.
Oh, can we talk about that coming up next? Let's do that. More of your phone calls, 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Sound. Welcome back to the show, 615-737-1045. We're going to talk about quarterbacks that struggled in week one. Not just the local professional football team, but I was sitting at the airport on the phone with Lucas last night when he told me, when he gasped in dismay as Jalen Hyatt dropped a pass in the middle of the field from Daniel Jones, who had the stuff of nightmares. But we'll get to that here in just a second. Let's go to Brian in McMinnville. Hey, Brian.
Hey, guys. Good morning. How
Good
y'all
morning.
doing?
Great.
I just want to touch on real quick. I know you said you don't blame the officiating, and I'm not that guy either. But Ron Tobert and them officials, them robbing the mayor of Murfreesboro that TD and blowing it dead. And then I just don't know, man. Like, the officials, they must have had a couple bourbons on Bourbon Street. They just had a good old time. And then I just want to touch real quick on the 4th and 6. I feel like analytics, you throw it in there, you got to go for that there. And the percentages, I mean, we had 3 timeouts. We just got down to the 10-yard line. It's late in the game. We're on the road. I feel like you just go for it in that position. And that's really all I was going to touch on. But y'all have a good day.
Thanks, Brian. Here, I asked Mike Vrabel yesterday about the fumble recovery by Kevin Byard, forced by Arden Key. The play blown dead as Kevin Byard running to the end zone because they think it's an incomplete pass.
You know what I mean? They're going to let it play out sometime. Next week, that's going to be a fumble, and then the next week it's going to be an incomplete pass, and the next week it's going to be a fumble. So if you're asking me that we should let replay sort it out, I would tell you that we should let replay sort it out. You can go back and look, show the team a lot of things that we covered came up today. Planning the recovery of the ball. I was proud of the way that Kevin didn't flinch and went and got the ball, and the way that we tried to affect the quarterback and just didn't go our way. They called it incomplete, and once it goes to replay, they need clear and obvious evidence that it wasn't a pass.
It is crazy because that was a carbon copy of the Dobbs play.
Yes.
Right? Like, ball comes out, it's kind of rested on the outside of his hand, and that's what pushes it forward, making it look like an incomplete pass at surface level, but saying he actually had no control whatsoever. So insane that you get a carbon copy of that play and the Titans end up on the wrong side of each
buddy,
one.
do you not remember the playoffs? Right after the Dobbs thing, it happened to Josh Allen and it happened to Mahomes. Both were called incompletions. It was crazy after the Dobbs thing. And it's funny because Arden Key was involved in both of those plays. Arden Key was the one that scooped and scored the recovered Dobbs fumble, and Arden Key was the one who
had the pressure,
forced what ultimately ended up being called an incompletion, or a fumble that was recovered.
I feel like you do have to let that play out.
Oh, it's such a bad job.
Because they put themselves in a trap there where if it is a fumble, which I think it was, then what? Where do the Titans regain possession? They put themselves in a trap to where they almost had to call it incomplete.
Yeah, no, they made it a mess immediately. They made it a mess. And again, you can talk about this in every game. I understand officiating is hard. I also understand that the officiating is poor despite the job being hard. They have to do better. They continue to not. I don't know what you do about the problem. I wish I had better solutions. I don't know about the full-time ref thing. It is such a hellscape that we have to come in here and talk about this stuff every damn game. Ryan Tannehill wasn't the only quarterback who struggled, though, in week one. Joe Burrow and the Bengals got run out of Cleveland on Sunday. And what happened, by the way, Deshaun Watson, I watched some of that this morning. He looks wretched.
Brutal interception by Deshaun Watson.
Joe Burrow, though, was the most shocking thing. Now, I know that it was kind of an upset for him to be ready for week one anyway. And then there's Daniel Jones. I don't think I have seen a game played by a professional football team, played as poorly by a professional football team as the every which way that the New York Giants and Daniel Jones failed. And the fact that they left him in there that long in the rain.
I know. They just kept trotting him out there.
Do they hate the guy they just gave something like $70 million guaranteed?
It was Titans-Bills vibes, right, from last season, where just truly everything that could go wrong goes wrong.
Yes.
And the Titans pulled Ryan Tannehill, near the end of the third quarter in that game?
Yes.
Maybe early fourth?
Malik was in early enough in the second half.
Jones went wall-to-wall last night. The Cowboys' front seven put him in hell last night. He was sacked 7 times. 2 interceptions, 15 of 28, 104 yards. Just absolutely nothing there for the Giants offensively, who marched right down the field on the opening kick and then had a field goal block return for a touchdown, all Cowboys from there. With Burrow, it was more of the Browns secondary was amazing yesterday. Incredible. T. Higgins targeted 8 times, 0 catches. Absolutely insane performance from the Browns. They only got home a couple of times, but they had, I think, 10 pressures on Joe Burrow. Myles Garrett had 4 of them.
There was a lot of good fronts putting a lot of quarterbacks who you thought, Burrow is great, but Daniel Jones in hell. Kenny Pickett in hell.
Yeah, my goodness.
Hell.
That was a rout. It's not often you see Mike Tomlin Steelers teams get routed. That's what that was against the Niners.
Don't tell me preseason, because Kenny Pickett, Kenny Pickett didn't see in the preseason?
Sure. No, he balled out.
You know what Kenny Pickett didn't see in the preseason?
Nick
The
Bosa.
Starting defense for the San Francisco 49ers preseason.
Highest paid defensive player in NFL history.
It's taken every ounce of restraint I had not to snap back at the preseason people, because the preseason, none of those players are in the preseason.
Well, there is one head coach in the NFL that is giving some credence to that.
Oh, God.
And we could talk about it on the other side.
Let's do it later.
Real quick, can you tell me who the first quarterback was to throw 3 touchdowns on the day on Sunday?
Was it Baker?
Jordan Love. Jordan Love, as the Packers handled the Bears at Soldier Field. Who had the best quarterback rating in the noon slate? Can you tell me that? The noon slate. Because late afternoon had some great offense. If you watch that Chargers-Dolphins game.
No, I'm in the press box. We were doing press conferences and stuff like that. I'll just take a guess for the sake of it. Somebody I'm not going to think. Anthony Richardson. I know he had a decent game, but
he looked pretty good. Desmond Ridder had the best QB rating of the noon slate.
wait, he had one more. I saw the Falcons box score this morning. He had one more reception. Drake London didn't have a single catch or target. The quarterback had one more reception than did Drake London. What the hell is that?
111.8 was his QBR for Desmond Ridder. Best of the noon slate. A lot of bad offense. A lot of teams put out a similar scoring output as the Titans. Here's the problem. Of NFL teams whose defense forced 16 or less points, 8-1 on the day.
Mm-hmm.
Titans were the one.
3 interceptions. 615-737-1045. We'll talk about the red zone woes specifically. We'll talk about the decision-making on 4th down at the end of the game. We'll take your phone calls, 615-737-1045. You still have yet to hear from DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Fulton, and more Mike Vrabel, his press conference at noon. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Titans opened the 2023 season with a 16-15 loss at the New Orleans Saints on Sunday. All 15 points coming from the leg of kicker Nick Folk, who was 5 for 5 on the day. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill, 16 of 31 with 198 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions.
Tannehill, play fake, looking, throwing deep downfield. He's going for more, and it's incomplete. It's batted in the air, actually, and intercepted by May. And May is tackled at the 6-yard line.
It's Mike Keith on the Titans radio call. Tannehill finished with a 28.8 QB rating, the worst of his NFL career. Head coach Mike Vrabel will meet with the media at noon as the Titans turn their attention to the LA Chargers in Week 2. You can hear that presser live right here on The Zone. Tennessee is 2-0 as the Vols offense struggled, but defeated Austin Peay 30-13 in the home opener at Neyland Stadium. The Vols fall out of the AP Top 10 after Week 2 to number 11 as they get ready to head down to Gainesville and take on the Florida Gators. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second down, show's off and rolling. Welcome in. Happy to have you. Of course, we're reacting all day long across all 4 shows. Titans lose 16-15. Vols fans, I know you're pissed. We'll get to you tomorrow. Struggles against Austin Peay were notable. That team won the football game, though. Yesterday, the result was not favorable for the local professional football team. We'll talk about that throughout the course of the day. Red zone woes, coaching decisions. Why don't we pivot there, shall we? Because the thing that you could always lean on, almost always, it seems, and pretty consistently under Mike Vrabel since he became the head coach in 2018, Titans have always sported one of the top red zone offenses in football. Now, you may say that that's skewed because last year they still had one of the best red zone offenses in football, despite not making it to the red zone very often. So the percentages may need to find some kind of middle ground there. But consistently, the Titans have found ways to capitalize when they get inside of 20 yards. And yesterday, 0 for in a big spot. 0 for 3 were the Tennessee Titans, and some critical meat still left on the bone. Then there's the 4th and 6 at the end of the game where the Titans are trailing, and they take the field goal to get themselves within a point, as opposed to going for it on the 4th and 6. This is a situation where Mike Vrabel is deciding, okay, I'm going to take the points. I'm going to trust my defense. The offense, the defense, they have the same goal. Neither of them came through because the defense, for once, or at least for once in a while, it's not always going to be there to save them. And they could not save them in this case, a situation where at the end of the game, Christian Fulton gave up a deep completion. Christian Fulton, who we have not talked about, by the way, he left the game in the first half with a hamstring, what he called hamstring tightness. Talked to him afterwards in the locker room. Came back in, played some third downs in the second half. We didn't realize that he was back in there on third downs until went back and watched the game this morning, and having talked to him yesterday, because the first time any of us noticed him, unfortunately for him, was the 41-yard completion, at least from our vantage point in the press box. But the defense couldn't save them yesterday. And so the 4th and 6th, when you're looking to trust your defense, it falters. And in reality, if you go for it on the 4th and 6th, here's the biggest argument against, right? If you go for it on 4th and 6th and you don't get it, what is the result?
Still down 4. Saints get the ball back deep in their own territory.
Deep in their own territory. So you are still, in theory, affording your defense the opportunity to get a stop.
Obviously, just requiring a touchdown.
You need the touchdown. The points get you closer, but the points really don't increase your percentage chance to win that much. Mike Vrabel was asked about his decision not to go for it last night on 4th and 6. This was the press conference from New Orleans.
And if we want to be a great defense, you have to be a great defense all the time. Try to put the game in their hands. I thought we'd get a stop. They had 49 rushing yards when we, made the decision to kick. Thought we'd get a stop. Thought we'd come down there and find a way to get it inside the 40 and kick a field goal to win the game. That's what I believed.
And, okay, I'm certain he believed it. It is the easiest decision to pick apart today that could have put them in, that really didn't cost them too much to make. It would have cost them 3 points had they gone for it on 4th and 6 and not got it, right? They would have not gotten the 3 points that they ultimately got. The score looked closer as a result. Maybe you feel better about that. You probably don't.
You're playing to need a field goal to win rather than to need a touchdown to win on your next offensive possession.
And I hate that.
In the moment,
In
the moment, what was your reaction to that call? What was sort of the press box vibe when the Titans tried out the field goal team on 4th and 6?
We looked at each other and just but why not? What? It's a fair question to ask him, and I think it was kind of mixed because I remember looking over it. So it was Rex Rode, Kaharski, me, and then Tom from Sports Illustrated, and Tehran one seat down, and they all just kind of looked around at each other, and the place is rocking. It's an open air press box. We can barely hear ourselves think, and still the vibe was kind of like, I get why he specifically didn't go for it, Vrabel, because we've seen Mike make decisions like this previously. That's a gut instinct. Mike Vrabel, I feel like this is the opportunity that we're going to have. I believe that this is the opportunity that's going to present itself because we're prepared for this particular scenario. And so we got why he made the decision. We got his thought process. Agreeing with the thought process is a different thing.
In the moment, just had no faith that the offense could convert on 4th and 6.
Well, who else didn't display a tremendous amount of faith in that offense? The head coach who made the decision. It's, Mike Vrabel is a plus on the sidelines far more often than not. But these are the kind of things that are going to be hyper-scrutinized when you have a defensive-minded head coach and a football team that's predicated off the run game that they have. And I talk to Cosell about this every week, or at least every week leading up to this season, is at a certain point, are the Titans going to feel essentially limited by the way that they go about their style of play? Are they putting a ceiling unnecessarily on themselves? And in these moments, it's hard to look at that. Again, I don't think it happens very often. I'd have to go back through in recent history and look through these things. But it's not like Mike Vrabel makes a lot of bad in-game coaching decisions. This was a decision that was very easy to hyper-focus on, especially given the critical nature of that point in the game. 615-737-1045 is the number. UW says, the ceiling is the roof. Well, it was literally the roof of the Superdome last night because whatever you were sending up was bouncing right back down at you and hitting you like a bolt of lightning with 72,000 plus announced Saints fans screaming on your necks, although a fair amount of Titans fans.
It sounded loud. It sounded like an awesome environment.
So cool. I honestly wish that you would have gotten that as a part of your year last year traveling as opposed to anywhere else that we went because that was sick.
In the red zone yesterday, Ryan Tannehill, 3 of 8 for 19 yards. Derrick Henry, 4 rushes, 5 yards.
I still think you got to make the effort. I think you have to make the decision that puts yourself in position to win. And to win most. I understand his logic behind how they were going to put themselves in a position to win. But again, the position to win should be more about getting the touchdown as opposed to, the field goal situation that you were kind of presenting to yourself. Like I said, I get why he did it. I heard him explain it to us afterwards. And I still think that largely you can not agree with the decision. 615-737-1045 is the number. Let's go to Jared in Mount Juliet next.
How's it going, guys?
Great.
Hate to be the one to have to call and remind you both of this, but Super Bowl week, Roger Goodell clearly spelled out that the officiating is better than it's ever been. So I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that question again
Indeed.
for the rest of the season.
Okay, Jared, thank you for putting us in our place. You are correct. We are wrong. Roger, of course, is always right, and I'll make sure that I make the necessary adjustments to my NFL season script.
So, frustrated to no end about the fourth down call yesterday. I felt like that is more to blame for losing than Tannehill, just because we know what to expect from Tannehill. He's shown us for the last 4 or 5 years who he is and what he is. No one was surprised. I would have been thinking at it from this angle. Does my completely and totally unreliable quarterback give me a better chance of winning the game if I put him on the opponent's 20-yard line or if I start from my own 35-yard line? That's what I would have been saying. So that's why I didn't understand, why do we not just win or lose it right there? We had the best chance instead of giving them the ball back. And I think that's just on Vrabel. I think the mismanagement of Henry at this point, it's pretty consistent, and I kind of think that points towards Vrabel. That's something I don't hear a lot of talk about, but last year it was always on the offensive coordinator, because we didn't use him enough. How do you not give him more carries in that second half yesterday? I'll just never understand. But Tannehill is who he is. Everybody knows that. It's one more year and here we go.
Well, but that's the thing. Thank you for the call, Jared. I disagree about not being surprised by that.
Yeah, me too.
It's the worst performance of his career
by far.
He has not had a game where he threw 3 interceptions without a touchdown since his rookie season,
over a decade ago.
And I believe that was a stat Sam Phelan had somewhere on the internet, if I saw correctly.
It was.
I think that I'm allowed to be surprised by the worst performance of the quarterback's career. I think that, like, you can have that opinion. You can be justified today because that is your opinion. I am still allowed to be surprised that the quarterback was that bad. And again, I have an entire spiel because I have not heard it discussed in these terms that we're going to talk about Ryan Tannehill at noon today, at 12:20 today after we hear from Mike Vrabel, since Mike has had the opportunity to watch more of the game back and go through more point-by-point situationally with us. The post-game, the immediate post-game press conferences are always a bit hard that way. We've seen a lot of times more than he actually has. Buffalo is at B&A potentially. I don't know where he is by the time we get to his phone call. Hey, Buffalo.
What's going on? Hey, y'all might have not seen what happened, but the Green Bay Packers took the youngest team since 2006 in the NFL, and they scored. And let me tell you, that quarterback for Chicago looked pretty good in the first quarter. It was a close game, and then all of a sudden, Jordan Love and you got Aaron Jones. He's got a hammy, so we got to be careful about Aaron Jones and his hammy. He's got a hammy issue, but man, what a great start for the Packers.
You think Aaron Rodgers watching that game, because they play Monday Night Football tonight, I think Aaron Rodgers was watching that. He might still hate the Packers or have some bad feelings toward the Packers, but just smiling to himself because the Green Bay Packers still own the Chicago Bears.
Ninth consecutive win over Chicago. Deflating win or deflating loss for Chicago because
a rare deflating win.
Deflating loss for the Bears fan base because you look at the Vikings dropping one at home to Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. Yes, the Lions got the upset win in Week 1 against Kansas City, but if you're looking for a changing of the guard in the NFC North, this is your best opportunity, right? Hey, maybe Jordan Love just isn't it. And Green Bay finally will enter an era where they just don't have a franchise quarterback. No. 38 points. They dusted the Bears at Soldier Field.
615-737-1045. That's the number. That's how you can join us. We're going to talk a lot about the Titans. We'll get into Tim Kelly. So a lot of you have brought up Tim Kelly's offensive play calling debut in Tennessee. We're going to get into that in more detail. We'll take your phone calls. You'll hear from DeAndre Hopkins coming up next. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. What did you make of Tim Kelly's offensive coordinator debut? 15 points, none of them touchdowns. Nick Folk, the leading scorer on the day, the only person to account for any points for the Titans on the day.
Isn't it ironic?
It does seem to be.
Don't you think? What a banger. All-time banger. This song.
The chorus. I will. It doesn't matter who you are. It's like that. I can't remember. There was an internet meme, and now I'm going to botch the analogy. But either way, it's just one of those songs where you hear the chorus, and it doesn't matter who you are, age, sex, race, whatever. You're going to belt out the chorus. It's like rain.
And yet nothing in that song is ironic.
No.
Maybe that is the irony in and of itself, that it's a song about irony that doesn't actually include anything ironic.
Well, you know what else is super ironic? Well, what a Titans offense, bud.
Pretty much everything about it.
What am I to do with these quotes from Tim Kelly about a month ago, let's say, where we're talking to him about Derrick Henry's usage rate? Now, I told you guys, and I expressed this on the League Company pregame show with Blaine and Mickey and Kayla, and I said in 2023 I would like to see Derrick Henry's life made easier. I don't need to see Derrick Henry have an 1,800-yard season. I don't need Derrick Henry to have 360 carries. I need Derrick Henry to be the most efficient version of himself. And so when we're talking to Tim Kelly about Derrick Henry's usage about a month ago in training camp, this is the response that he gives us.
Yeah, it'd be foolish of me to not play to our strengths. You know what I mean? And obviously having Derrick here, we got to make sure that we're putting him in the best spot to be able to continue to have the high level of success that he's had throughout his career. So that's something that we're working on as a staff, and that's something that we're not going to forget is understanding who we are and kind of what the backbone is of our identity.
With that being said, do you think we're still in the days where 30 carry weeks for him are going to happen?
I mean, if it means that's what we need to do to win the game, like that's going to be the biggest thing for us on offense, is making sure that we're doing whatever it takes to be able to go and win that game based upon the game plan, based upon the vision of Coach Vrabel, and making sure that we're doing whatever we have to do to win.
Again, the last time Ryan Tannehill had 30-plus pass attempts and Derrick Henry had 15 or less carries in the same game, which happened yesterday, November 3rd, 2019, in a 30-20 loss at the Carolina Panthers,
where they had a first-half game plan that included and featured Deion Lewis. And in the second half, they looked like a much more competent and true-to-form football team, because there was a period of time when many of you wanted Arthur Smith fired in the first part of that 2-4 start?
2-4.
And the Carolina game felt like a tipping point, because the calls for Art's job were starting to crescendo. Oh, here Mike Vrabel is hiring one of his buddies, promoting internally, blah, blah, blah. This guy doesn't know anything. He's a tight ends coach. And then Arthur Smith goes on to be a head coach and presides over one of the most successful offense in Titans era in 2020.
Man led the best QB rating of the noon slate yesterday. Desmond Ridder.
Indeed.
So really the first time then that this has ever happened in the era of Derrick Henry's this being Derrick Henry's football
since
team.
Derrick Henry became the full-time starter, I'll say the bell cow starter halfway through the 2019 season, because again, that wasn't that way at the start. This has not happened. Tim Kelly a month ago telling us it would be, silly for us to get away from the stuff that's our strengths, basically. And then having a game plan that is having success with Derrick Henry in the first half and doing things like, what I think is silly? A pony package, 2 running backs in the backfield, the kind of stuff that we talked about. Cosell was interested to see if they would deploy any of that, except the personnel that you were looking for is what? Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears, not Tajay Spears and Julius Chestnut. I don't understand how Spears can outsnap Henry, and there can be any kind of explanation as to that being a thing that plays to the Titans' strengths. Not out-carrying Henry, but out-snapping Henry. It would seem to me a bit ironic. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Chris is calling us from Indianapolis. Chris is in Indy. Up next. Hey, Chris. I think I just hung up on him and picked up Jack's call. I'm sorry, Chris.
You sure did.
Chris, call us back.
Jack from Inglewood.
Jack
Come on
from
down.
Inglewood, my bad. Okay, that was my first interception of the day. Well done by me. Go ahead, Jack.
Well, they don't let them practice in the preseason. Then they go on and on and on all last week about do we have a kicker or not, and this is what you get. I'm done with these guys.
Because I didn't practice in the preseason?
Yeah, you see how much good it did them.
Yeah, but what did it do Mahomes? It didn't help Kadarius Toney catch any passes. I mean, I don't the preseason thing. Didn't you say there's a Nick Sirianni quote floating around about the preseason?
Yeah, it was really interesting because Jalen Hurts was sluggish, started off sluggish and slow against the New England Patriots. Ultimately, the Eagles won. But Nick Sirianni said after the game that he's definitely going to reevaluate his preseason plans after their start against the Patriots. He went as far as to say that if he could go back and do it over, that he would put his offensive starters out on the field in the preseason. This was his post-game presser yesterday with Philadelphia media.
Oh, you don't have the quote, though?
I had it. I guess I just didn't save it.
Okay. Your first interception.
Yeah, there it
is. So we've got 2 turnovers so far between us. Let's see if we can't pull the full Titans trifecta and go for a hat trick today, shall we?
So interesting from Nick Sirianni saying, he said, I'm always evaluating myself. He said he wrote that down in his notes about totally reevaluating how they approach the preseason because of how they started.
Russell Wilson played in the preseason and lost. Patrick Mahomes played in the preseason and lost. Plenty of quarterbacks who played in the preseason won. Like Kenny Pickett played in the preseason, got his back blown out. Like what come on.
Okay, like the Steelers got blown out. He did not get hurt. You made it sound like Kenny Pickett
sorry. Yeah.
out for the season.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I probably should have said that. Although if that Niners defense have anything to do with it, that absolutely they'd be chewing on his spine a little bit.
That's not a literal injury for Pickett. It's just
probably should have corrected
it's just a graphic metaphor.
Okay,
Buck.
thank you, Mike. Thank you for the correction. Nobody in football really talks about the preseason that way. Now, Blaine, to his credit, Blaine Bishop has been on this from the start, and I'm going to defer. I'm going to acknowledge. I know you guys think that I don't admit when I'm wrong very often, or that I think that I'm smarter than everybody else. And maybe sometimes I do think I'm smarter, but not when it comes to football. I'm going to defer to Blaine Bishop in that element. And when Blaine emphasizes the importance of the preseason, that's not something that's lost on me. But to attribute yesterday to anything. And I don't even want to attribute it just to a bad game, and I'll explain what I mean by that, because I think it's a larger issue. Frankly, I think it's a much larger issue than just a bad game. And I think that's an assessment that I'm comfortable making after one game. And again, we'll get to Tannehill from that standpoint at 12:20 after we hear from Mike Vrabel at noon. I just think that when I hear the preseason thing, and to talk to players and coaches about this enough around the league, like, I just don't think you can pin it on the preseason reps. Like, they're in practice every day with one another. If he's inaccurate in practice, he's going to throw an interception. If he's inaccurate in a game, he's going to throw an interception. And the 15,000 people that he's playing in front of at Soldier Field, if he was to play in the preseason, does not replicate sufficiently 72,000 at the Superdome screaming on your neck. It's just, I'm not going to outright dismiss it, even though I was pretty dismissive of Jay there. So I apologize, Jay, for being outwardly dismissive. I just don't think the preseason is as important as a lot of people are assigning it to today.
So what's the takeaway from Tim Kelly then? Alex in the F&M Bank chat says, while the running back usage was questionable, I don't blame Kelly. His play calling was fresh and got people open. Execution was just poor.
The personnel and deployment looked different. Tannehill missed probably 2 easy touchdowns. Spears and Chig on the flea flicker. Though the misses to me are even a greater offense than the 3 interceptions. Maybe not than the third. The third was hideous. The third was objectively hideous.
Was the third was
where he just didn't step into the throw. Like, he just lobbed it up there, underthrew it, and got it picked off.
Was that the one to Moore or Hopkins? I can't remember which one came later.
Moore was earlier on the play action concept where he had Chig open underneath, and there was two defensive backs in the area of Chris Moore. Again, DPI probably should have been called there. It also should have been called on Elijah Molden. Refs were missing calls on both sides.
So is that the dilemma with Tim Kelly, where the plays were right there? It was right there.
The plays were there.
And you hit one or both of those, Titans probably win that game, versus the Derrick Henry usage and going away from the run where it seemed to just be churning, especially in the first half.
Yeah. They had the opportunities that they wanted. They didn't execute them as a team. Tim Kelly cannot throw the pass. He cannot catch the pass. Tim Kelly can call the plays. And you can, while a fair criticism today is the utilization or lack thereof of Derrick Henry, it must also be acknowledged, both things can be so, that Tim Kelly gave them opportunities to win that game, gave them opportunity to put points on the board, gave them opportunities to not need the red zone, to go down there and score. They had wide open, deep chunk plays available to them outside of 20 yards. And Tannehill just couldn't hit him.
So is it a plus overall on Kelly?
I came away feeling... Okay, so let's do we didn't do stock up, stock down. Are we saving that for Tuesday?
Sure.
I came away overall feeling all right about the Tim Kelly debut. And I understand why people are going to say 15 points. What the hell are you talking about? Personnel, the execution by the personnel or lack thereof is more to fault here, if you want to do it by percentage, than is Tim Kelly's getting away from Derrick Henry in the second half. I'm not saying it's excusable. I'm just saying of the offenses, that's not as big of one to me as the opportunities that Tannehill himself missed that were created for him. Because the offense was throwing more on first down. I got if I'm a Titans fan and I'm looking for a more modernized NFL offense, you got that yesterday. Problem was you couldn't hit the plays. You couldn't pull it off. The plays were there to be made. You didn't make them. Let's go to, okay, this is the Chris that I hung up on. All right,
yes,
I'm going to stop using my pen. I'm trying to reach. The phone's a little further away from me. I'm going to reach safely and hit the button for Chris and Indy. Hey, bud.
Hey, no worries, Buck. I think it was an issue on my end.
No, it was absolutely not. I absolutely hung up on you.
Hey, I'm in agreement. I think as fans, Titans fans, we wanted to see an offense that was more modern, that opened it up, and I think we got that yesterday. Other than Henry sitting on the side when we probably needed to lean on him too because Tannehill was struggling, I don't really have any complaints. My question is, though, how many games have we legitimately had to lean on Tannehill and he pull out a win for us? Because I feel like yesterday, the Bengals game, that offense was for Tannehill to lead us, and I think he just folded. And I think we've seen that before. I'll wait for you guys' comments.
I'm not going to disagree. That's an offense that needed the quarterback to be the primary means of pulling this thing forward. And if you needed evidence or further evidence, if you are somebody who is already starting to draw this conclusion or has drawn this conclusion over the past couple of years, that Tannehill is not the person who's going to be the thing that pulls you across the finish line. I would say that yesterday, a one-game sample size, we'll have more opportunities to kind of evaluate that. I thought there was pretty clear evidence that that was something that he was supposed to shoulder and did so ineffectually.
I'm sorry?
Ineffectually.
Do you mean ineffectively?
Ineffectually.
Okay.
I mean, you could also say ineffectively. You want to Urban Dictionary me real quick?
Yeah, I'm double checking.
Like, listen, I just told you I'm down to it.
No, you're good.
You sure?
Yeah. I had my suspicions.
Look at you back there, just waiting.
You're good.
Lurking. You're in the shadows. I sent Bert to the shadows, never to return. Now you're back there lurking with your dictionary. Put your Merriam-Webster's away. Stop it.
No shadows back here. Lights are shining bright.
No, it is funny. It's always bright and sunny in here every time we walk in here in the morning because the morning show crew doesn't like pull all the blinds and turn on the set lighting the way that I like to. But I can't, like, it's not that Lucas and I need to be able to see each other, but like I can't physically see Lucas when all the lights are in here. There's too much of a glare. Not that you care. Let's go to Hungwell up next.
Hey, Buck, how are you doing? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the fact that the Saints have a really good defense. I think they were pretty close to top 5 last year.
Mm-hmm.
And with all the, I was wondering how many sacks were across the NFL yesterday, and that just goes to show you offenses start way later than, defenses are way ahead right now. And I think after a couple games, Titans will start buttoning it up and playing a whole lot better. I'm with a name like mine, I'm more of a lover than a fighter. But I'd be ashamed of these Titans fans for just abandoning ship and all that. It's appalling to, it's the first game of the year. You can't judge a team, this early. So y'all have a good one, and I'm the greatest. See you later.
I mean, okay.
All right.
Thank you for the call. It's not that I don't think people who are jumping ship today or are giving off are signaling jumping ship today. They're not jumping ship on the team. It sounds like they're jumping ship on the quarterback. And today, I'm not going to talk you off the ledge. It's the worst performance of his career. I had some tweets last night about, how are you going to spin this one for Tannehill? What are you talking about? I'm looking at him playing the worst game of his career. I don't know how anybody, not that we're interested in spin anyway, but like nobody's looking to spin things. I'm trying to have reasonable and sound analysis, and the reasonable and sound analysis on this Monday morning, September the 11th, in the year of the Rona 2023, is that Ryan Tannehill had the worst game of his career. Week 1 is not an entire season. You don't have to draw any grand assessments or make any grand assessments about what your football team will be in 2023 just from that one sample size. But you can be critical of that quarterback today. You can, not like you need my permission, but if you're done with the Ryan Tannehill experience, I'm not there to talk you off the ledge today. I think that there is a lot more to be concerned about him specifically based on what I saw at the Superdome. And I think, Mike Vrabel will be asked some questions about that here at noon. We're going to carry that press conference for you live. And then we're going to talk about what I think the core issue after yesterday's game for me with Ryan Tannehill is. But we'll do that coming up next. We'll also get into your phone call. 615-737-1045 is the number. We'd be happy to have you. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
40 years ago, we opened our doors with one mission in mind.
We'll be right back with the top 10 songs of 1983.
To sell quality American-made vehicles at a fair price.
You have arrived.
And we've loved every minute of the ride. Celebrating 40 years of Two Rivers Ford.
I don't know if we're dancing the night away, but it's a Monday morning reaction show. Welcome back. 615-737-1045 is the number. Talking about the Titans' 16-15 loss yesterday afternoon in New Orleans. I'm dying to go back to New Orleans, by the way. I don't need to do the Bourbon Street thing again. Have you been? That was such a cool city. The history. I'm trying to do the vampire and voodoo tours. Went to Bourbon Street, but also ate an incredible restaurant called Bayona, no free ads, on Bourbon Street. 33-cent martinis. Difficult thing to overcome on a college football Saturday.
Goodness.
I thought I had too many of them when I saw that Nebraska was getting handled by Colorado or that Alabama was losing at home. And I just realized that the college football weekend was insane. But
there
of
was
course,
some decent college football in New Orleans on Saturday with Tulane.
Saw a lot of Ole Miss fans, a lot of people in blazers.
Ole Miss showed out. Yeah, they do that at Ole Miss.
It's a little much. But we'll talk more college football tomorrow, obviously. Right now we're reacting to the Titans and the Saints. How about John in Nashville up next? Hey, John.
How you doing? I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener, and I'm going to try to make about 3 or 4 quick points after all of these calls. I, too, am very frustrated. I'm not abandoning ship. I've been a Vanderbilt fan my whole life, so we don't abandon ship easy. But one of the things that you have to look at from this, and I heard several things yesterday on the postgame show, and I'm going to come back to the postgame show at the end, but the thing with Mike Vrabel didn't become stupid overnight. Y'all said something pretty smart earlier when you said it was a gut call on 4th down to not go for it, but you have to understand his gut. He's a linebacker. He has a linebacker gut, which is different than what you saw Saturday at Ole Miss. He doesn't have a Lane Kiffin gut, which is different type gut, so different type call. So we have to know what we have. We know what we thought we were going to get, and go with it. But the thing that I heard a lot of yesterday, people talk about Vrabel. If Mike wasn't the head coach here, how many teams in this league would love to have him? Answer that question quickly. It's a lot. A lot. Conversely, if Ryan Tannehill was not the starting quarterback of the Titans, how many teams in this league would love to have them as their starting quarterback? And the answer to that is probably none, because he had footwork yesterday that looked like it came from the Arthur Murray dance studio, and he threw 3 interceptions, and quite frankly, he was really lucky he didn't throw 5. He missed the 2 big out routes, which is, by the way, Kevin Dyson said yesterday in the postgame show, you leave him out there because he's had a lot of good NFL experience and he's had some luck in the NFL. Well, by the way, so has Joe Namath, but I saw him on the pregame show on Saturday, and I don't think he's the guy. And we measure those guys by the out routes, and he missed 2 out routes that should have been interceptions, and there are about 15 or 20 guys in the country that can throw that 35 or 40-yard out route on a rope, and Ryan Tannehill is not one of them, particularly when he has the footwork that he has now. So you look at that, but the most frustrating thing about all of this, and the reason that I called is...
he was getting to his most frustrated point, Lucas. John, I appreciate the call. I appreciate you being a first-timer, but the 60-second rule does apply.
We gave some leeway, too.
He said the most frustrating thing. He was crescendoing. He was ready. Man dropped an Arthur Murray reference on us. Thank you for the call, John. Well done. So, I understand the analogy that you're making. We have talked about this before when some of you guys have called in or maybe tweeted us or dropped a message in the F&M Bank chat about Vrabel hot seat, right? If Mike was to be fired here, he would not have time to tell his family that he had been fired by the Titans before another NFL team hired him. Ryan Tannehill, as a commodity, many of you wanted to know why the Titans wouldn't move him in the offseason. Not a lot of teams that were willing to take on Ryan Tannehill at this age and at that contract number, or at least that cap hit. So you understood why Ryan Tannehill's final contract year is going to play out here the way that it looks ready to play out to. But what he brought up specifically is some mechanical stuff from Ryan Tannehill yesterday that was deeply concerning. And we're going to expand upon that at much greater length at 12:20 today. Mike Vrabel, though, is going to meet with the media coming up next. So you'll hear from the Titans head coach live from St. Thomas Sports Park. What?
You look like you're sending it to break.
I am.
We got a couple more minutes.
I was going to give ourselves enough time. Don't you have like a whole sports update thing?
We'll have enough time. Don't you worry.
Well, what do you want me to do? You want me to take another call? Because every time I do that, halfway through the call, you say, gotta get out here. Gotta get out here.
Take another call.
You're such a jerk. Smokey Ben up next. Hey, Ben. Nope, that's the wrong button.
What is going on?
I don't know why it's so much farther away from me today. Go ahead, Ben.
All right, appreciate it, Buck. And y'all check the chat for the future locations of the hopefully rotational Europe team Titans. But look, I watched the draft, and per usual, I'm disappointed in the draft. But, this off-season goes on, and you're like, okay, Vrabel's got more say, so we just got better at what they were already good at. Well, clearly he has too much respect for Tim Kelly, because the old Vrabel would have said, hey, Henry's the only thing being successful today. I know Buck Rising says he doesn't want Henry to have 1,800 yards, but it's not just him. The defense stays fresh. Your quarterback is garbage. Your O-line gets the mall people. We need Derrick Henry to have 1,800 yards because he's what keeps this train going. If not, I like the ring of the Frankfurt Titans of Germany. Thanks, guys.
He's talking about deporting them to Europe.
Doesn't get much worse week one reaction than that.
I love it.
Send the team to Europe.
Perhaps Mike Vrabel will be asked about the deportation potentially of his franchise that he coaches when you hear from him at the podium coming up next.
It is 11:58. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans opened the 2023 season with a 16-15 loss at the New Orleans Saints on Sunday. Ryan Tannehill with a career low day in quarterback rating at 28.8. First time Tannehill throws 3 interceptions with no touchdowns since his rookie year over a decade ago. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel set to meet with the media in just a few moments from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park as the Titans turn their attention to the Chargers in Week 2 for the home opener. You can hear that presser coming up live right here on The Zone. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Happy Monday. We're happy to have you here on 104.5 The Zone. Mike Vrabel is getting ready to speak to the media. You will hear from the Titans head coach momentarily. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. In the meantime, apparently they are having some audio issues at Ascension St. Thomas.
Mike Vrabel's talking. I can see his mouth moving. Do you want to hear it?
Yes. No, not this music. They could lose 40-0 the way that the Cowboys did, and I would rather watch that football game, cover that football game, ask questions about that football game than hear that godforsaken music. Somebody tell the production staff. Quickly.
No, this is not good. He's been talking for a good 2 minutes now.
Ah, damn it.
Now there's silence. No, it's music.
Okay, very good. So,
we'll see if we get to hear
of
from
all
Mike
the
Vrabel.
things that you could have put in my ear, not that ear poison, not that awful. Why? How would you even describe that? What is that mess? Who put that together? What sad DJ that had great musical aspirations in life? Okay, apparently Mike Vrabel is at the podium. I'll bitch about the music later. Here's the Titans head coach.
Maybe him being so off, missing guys.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I wish that I knew. I wish that I could tell you. We have to be better. Ryan has to be better. We have to hit guys that are open, and we can't force the ball into double coverage. And so we have to give them cleaner pockets like we gave them in the second half earlier. There was some of that. I think. Again, we can point to when a play goes bad, we can point to a lot of different things, but we have to be better. We can't turn the football over, or we can't get punts blocked, and on and on and on.
Might you have been over determined to get the ball to DeAndre?
I think maybe. We have, when you play quarterback, there's you can't just sit there and. It's a yes, no, you're going to go to a side. And obviously, if the DB's underneath, we probably don't want to throw a back shoulder. We can't throw a back shoulder. I'm okay with the decision, when you're over here and, you're going to give DeAndre a chance, but you got to give him a better chance. And, but I just think that there's times where if guys double covered, we certainly need to progress through. And to progress through, you have to have a, pass protection to be able to take an extra hit or to be able to come back and work the backside.
Talking to him after the game or this morning, just how's he kind of responded after yesterday?
Well, he's already, been in here with the receivers and, and been in here with the coaches, and he'll respond like he has. He's been a great competitor for us. He's been unbelievably tough and determined, and I'm positive that those results will be different.
Does Traylon look like he was recovered well enough from the knee injury, or was he having any issues in terms of separation and those sorts of things?
Well, there were times that Traylon was open. There was times that Traylon was open and caught the ball. There was times that he was open and unfortunately dropped the one. Traylon's going to be a big part of what we do, moving forward, and just understanding, where he fits for us and what he can do to help us. And,
I've tried to explain to every skilled player on our team, you know, when it's a pass, your job is to get open, and you can't control whether you get the ball or not. The only thing that you can control is that you're open. And sometimes that he was, and sometimes that they were, you know, they'll give them credit. They played, you know, on body, and they, you know, played square and forced us to, you know, get open.
In those type of situations with personnel, I know in the past, like Tony Dudes would communicate with Derrick, hey, you're out, you're in, etc. With a new coach, how does that work now? With Coach Otten now in the mix.
The same way, but you know, J.O.'s upstairs and Tony handles, you know, substitution, and you know, we have different packages that we call on, or the coordinator calls on that he wants in the game, and you know, those guys go in there and sub. Or if Derrick, you know, has a 46-yard screen pass and needs a break, then Derrick will, you know, kind of do that as well.
Were you on the fence when you declined the offensive hold?
Yeah, you know, I think so. You know, just figuring a rookie kicker, 52-yarder, you know, wasn't thrilled with the third down, you know, them getting down there. So I made a decision, and he made the kick.
You touched on it a bit yesterday, but do you mind elaborating a little bit on that difficult decision with the fifth field goal as well, and kind of what went into that?
Well, I think at the time it wasn't a difficult decision. You know, I thought our chances, and still believe that, is to play defense with 3 timeouts and get the ball back with our offense with 1 timeout, get the ball somehow into the 35-yard line and make a kick. And we had converted 2 third downs and 4th and 6 with that amount of space for them to cover. I didn't think that was going to be our best way to win the football game. I believe our best way to win that game would have been to play defense, stop them, which we didn't do, which is unfortunate, and then somehow find a way to make a kick.
In that thought process, is where the ball was on the field play at all? You know, like, had you not gotten it, they would have been inside their 10-yard line in all likelihood. Does then how they handle that?
No, because again, we're still going to you still would need a touchdown, and you'd still need, you know, at least 65 yards. No, it was our thought process was to use the 2-minute warning, have a timeout for our offense, you know, and be able to move the ball, you know, 40 yards to be able to attempt a field goal.
That decision, and that was all field, not concerned about analytics. You're just looking at the feel of the game.
Well, I mean, you can run the numbers, but also I think that there's a certain level of we all watch the same game, and points were hard to come by. You know, both defenses were doing a nice job and competing and getting red zone stops. That, you know, they got a 3rd and 7 that they scored a touchdown on. We got lackadaisical, but just the flow of the game and the way that I felt like what our best chance for victory was to do that, to make the kick, to cover the kickoff, use the 2-minute warning, and you know, get a stop.
What kind of explanation you get on the interception fumble play? And I'm sure you saw the Jacksonville game yesterday, almost an identical play that went the other way. What did they tell you about why they didn't let that play out, and why they didn't reverse the call?
Never talked to Ron. Certainly not going to reverse it in replay. Those are you're going to watch throughout the league. Next week it's going to be a fumble. The week after that it's going to be an incompletion. The week after that it's going to be a fumble. And what they're going to tell you in replay is that the call on the field matters. The call on the field is important. I would love for it to let it play out and go to replay. You know, showed a clip last year, same exact situation. I think it was week 1. I think it was the Chargers and Washington, you know, ball on the ground, and every player on our team, I'm like, is it a fumble or an incomplete? And they say, we don't know. And I said, that's exactly right. Like, they know that. They know that they're not sure. So Kevin and everybody responded exactly how we want them to. Knew that they blew it dead, so knew that we would just get the ball at the spot, but also knew that it was going to be hard to reverse and replay because of what the call on the field was.
Like a Dobbs play last year, you pleaded for more consistency.
It's going to be next week. There's going to be another one, guys. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? It's like I can't. There's nothing I can do. There is nothing I can do. Well, speed of the game, and let it go to replay, and maybe, let them all go to replay, and let replay, decide, and if maybe clear and obvious, or doesn't get it done, then we need a different term, because a lot of these quarterback, they're all happening. Those are the ones that are hard. Is the ball in the hand? Is it coming forward? And I can see where the conflict occurs. It's not why we lost the game.
Clarity from as a member of the competition committee?
I just want them to be decisive, and want them to. I would like for them to, if they're not sure, allow replay to sort it out. That's why we play to the recovery of the ball, and not the whistle or anything like that.
For you, is there a clear distinction between a continuation of a pass and the hand pushing a fumbled ball?
I think it's a difficult job on the field. I think when you look at it in replay, it becomes somewhat reasonable to expect that you could determine whether it was a forward pass or a fumble. But I know, having stood back behind the quarterback, that is more difficult than some other calls.
Are the officials not instructed to then, when in doubt?
You guys can just ask the league about what they instruct the officials to do. Well, I certainly am not going to be able to speak for them. I apologize. Whatever the call is, we're going to have to adjust to it and figure it out. But if they want to talk to you, they're happy to talk to you.
What do you think of Harold's first game back, and might it take him a little bit of time to kind of get back to full form?
Well, we've expected a lot from Harold, and he does a lot for us, and he'll have to continue, to help us and will, and be more impactful. And, they chipped him a couple times, and, we was able to get in there a few times, and we just, we're expecting, and we are positive that we'll get good things from Harold.
What did you see in the week to get a lot of looks from Pico when he was the elevation, and maybe had some other guys that were active that, weren't playing as much as he was?
Oh, man. Pecco's always been somebody that's, done it exactly the way we need it to be done, and can play multiple positions. And so he can rotate in there for Tier or Jeff, and, playing base. Decided to take 4 guys to the game, and that may change based on practice, game plan, who we have. But, he's always, been a dependable player, and somebody that can play multiple positions.
Arden Key, as disruptive as the guys you're seeing maybe for week one.
Well, I thought him and Danico, certainly affected the quarterback and made plays on the football. Danico, had some tackle for loss and showed up in the backfield and set the edge when we needed to, and both of them, factored, and that was really good to see. We'll need a lot of it, but those were the camps. Those guys had those type of camps, and so we'll need as much of that as we can get.
You're listening to Titans head coach Mike Vrabel at the podium after the loss to the Saints.
In hindsight, was Christian equipped to come back in the game? He was kind of galloping with a limp there.
I mean, when we see him run on the sidelines and the trainer tells me he's cleared, he was playing on third down in the second half. We'll see where he is going forward.
How did the 2 tackles look in their first outing, Dillard and Hubbard?
Well, I thought that they, Dre, we talked about it, just probably a few sets that were a little soft, maybe just not knowing or not feeling him where he was. I think after we continued to bring it to his attention and realized that he wasn't doing a good enough job of setting the width of the pocket, thought it improved. I thought there was some good snaps of him in the run game. I thought Chris did a nice job over there on Cam Jordan. Thought when the end tried to spike or got a little heavy when Jordan got a little heavy on Chris, he went and captured the outside number and gave him a shove, and Derrick ran outside for 15 or 16 yards. but there was also some good plays and some bad plays, and but I thought it was a good place to start. I loved how they responded in the second half, and we had some good pockets in the second half, probably better so than in the first half.
What's the proper technique, Mike, for a corner or DB to defend a double move by a receiver?
Not look in the backfield, start there, and play to man. And if you break on the first move and you go through the man, it's an illegal contact or a holding. But certainly nobody's trying to defend a double move by looking in the backfield. That'd be the most important place to start.
What did you make of the way your secondary played overall in this game?
I think it has to be better. It has to improve. I think we need to challenge. We need to play square. If these are the rules, which we try to explain, that they put out an officials video and teaching the officials, and they've sent it to us and the teams, which is great, that if you're square or you're playing the football, that you're going to be afforded a certain level of, leeway, just like the interception down there with Chris Moore. Guy was playing the football. There's a lot of contact, and hey, that's what it is. And so we know that, and we have to play that same way.
Last year you went 0-2 to 7-3. The year before 0-1 to 12-5. It's not the end of the world.
Well, it's a long season, Corey, and it was a great test of I think, a good football team on the road in an unbelievable environment. Could have been a lot better. Could have been a lot worse. Our job is to win the game. We didn't. But our guys fight. They compete, and the team. We need to keep improving. And we say this all the time. The teams that improve are going to be the ones that are playing in January. 49ers and talking with Brunskill after the game. He's like, hey, coach, and I love getting to know Daniel and his story and just how he's gotten into this league. He's like, hey, coach, 49ers, they lost week 1 in Chicago, and we were playing late in the year. And I said, I appreciate you reminding me that, Daniel.
Why do you think week 1 has a tendency to do that throughout the league, where you get some surprising results every year that seemingly aren't indicative of what a team ends up being? So in your experience, why is it difficult?
Because this is a unique league. This is a unique league. It's an 8-8 league, 9-8, 8-9, however you want to put it now with 17 games. But that's what the structure is. The structure is designed for parity. And maybe there's teams that are at full strength, or there's teams that maybe didn't quite prepare, or somebody hit some plays that, they didn't see in practice, or, teams continue to get better as the season goes on. Maybe they threw a different coverage at somebody. The ball security, right? You talk about maybe there's some fumbles, or in our case, in interceptions, right? That lead blocked punt. Right, the things that we talked about that would really hurt us, that show up in week 1, just because you're playing 70 snaps, and it's different than training camp and preseason. Just get beat underneath. I thought Shig could have come out and help him a little bit, but can't be up and under everybody that's been here that's in protection, whether it's an offensive lineman, a running back, or somebody on the punt team. We have to block inside out. It was one of our special teams keys. Knew that they would rush punts, whether it was JT Gray, who ultimately didn't play, whether it was Taysom Hill or Bond or Granderson. That was something that they did. They did it on field goals. They did it on punts, and we didn't get it done.
How's Skronsky hold up in his first game?
Pretty good. I thought pretty good. There was a couple of times where he could have been better in protection, but I would say that, Peter is, he's fit for this league. It's just he's got good play strength and some good finishes where he was moving people, and pass protection when he gets his hands inside on them and be able to sit down in the middle. It got us on a game there where we need to be better, but I think it's a good start.
Again, what were some of the things that were going wrong there?
Penalties, penalties, right? didn't execute. It's just tough. We got behind the sticks, and so we get the ball whenever we get it. We lose yardage. We get down the other time, and it's 2nd and 20, right? Long yardage situations in a red zone are tough. There's just not a whole lot of space, and every yard is critical. We've talked about that. So self-inflicted wounds, and then give them credit as well.
Is there a common thread on some of the third down struggles beyond being behind the sticks?
3rd and 8. I average a 3rd and 8 on 3rd down. I want to be better on 3rd down. Don't have them be so long.
As you expected him to be when you signed him?
I mean, 5 for 5. I wish that he was 6 for 6.
Tim, when the coin toss or the head or tails calls,
you know what? I don't know if he typed on his I don't know if he typed on his tablet, heads or tails for KB, but that was a unique moment for me to be able to see Tim and Steve there together before the game, and Steve talks with an interpreter, is his aide, that he moves his eyes and she knows what he's saying, and that was cool for me to communicate with him through her, and then obviously Timmy and his tablet. So hopefully that brought some awareness to an unbelievable disease, but also to 2 great alumni of the National Football League.
Would you say that the way things went with Henry in the fourth quarter, or just the second half, would you say that that's an outlier, like something that
Probably, yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that those are something like we need. We're going to need a Derrick, and we're going to need everybody, and making sure that we get into a rhythm and that we figure out things that we can do consistently. And Derrick will be a huge part of that. I can assure you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, that's Mike Vrabel at the podium. A lot there to chew on. We'll get into it. We'll take your phone call. 615-737-1045 is the number. We'll also talk about what my biggest issue. There was a lot of problems with Ryan Tannehill's performance yesterday, but the biggest issue is what we're going to get into coming up next. Well, that one expired because the kicker was 5 for 5, and Mike Vrabel wishes that he was
Saints come with some pressure. Tannehill fires deep downfield, going for Hopkins. It is intercepted. Intercepted by Lattimore, I do believe. Penalty markers down. As Hopkins thought he was held, Lattimore returns the ball back out near the 50-yard line.
That was one of 3 Ryan Tannehill interceptions on the day. Welcome back to the show. Titans drop their season opener to the Saints on the road 16-15. So, the biggest reason they lost the football game is turnovers. The reason that the loss feels worse than it does already, not even because of the turnovers, because of the throws that were missed that were wide open touchdowns. Ryan Tannehill's performance was the worst of his career yesterday by quarterback rating. We talked about that in the first hour, exceeding the previous low, which was last year at Buffalo in week 2. The Bengals' performance in the playoffs, his quarterback rating, and I want to make sure that I have the specific number, but his quarterback rating was 40 points higher in the infamous loss to the Cincinnati Bengals.
That was the costliest performance of Ryan Tannehill's
was
career.
Indeed the most. It is the thing that people hammer him for the most, but it's also regarded as one of his worst performances. By quarterback rating, that is not so. My problem with Ryan Tannehill yesterday, and I was thinking about this while I was watching him, especially like when he missed Chig on the flea flicker, when he missed a throw that I've seen him make 1,001 times, and when he's looking, frazzled in the pocket back there. And by the way, the protection was okay for stints in the second half, but he was not well protected. He looked like a quarterback that had been battered. He looked like a quarterback who was not comfortable. Ryan Tannehill looked old yesterday. And I don't know that I've ever felt that before, where I felt that his skills, his physical ability was in decline. Now, the third interception, he didn't step into. It was a poor throw, it was an underthrown ball, and defensive back made a play. But the misses, the amount of times that he wasn't working across, and listen, maybe it was a half field read that was called on some of these plays where he wasn't coming back, wasn't seeing things like Traylon Burks running wide open, Chig underneath on the second interception, Spears on a wheel route that should have been a touchdown. Like, there were misses that were acceptable if you were watching, say, C.J. Stroud yesterday, or Anthony Richardson, or Bryce Young, not a quarterback in year 12. I came away from that for the first time saying, at 35 years old, we see the end happens quickly for these guys. Some of them prolong it, some of them stave it off. Rivers and Breeze did it. Roethlisberger did it. Tannehill is just now starting to creep into that bracket where you clearly and obviously saw them exceed the peak of their powers as players. But what I saw yesterday felt like a player in decline more than just watching a bad game. Now, I'm sure there was some rust. I'm sure that they can come out and they can make improvements. Like I said, Ben and Rivers and Breeze, they found ways to sustain, even though, arm strength was the first thing to obviously go. But it's the first time that I've had that feeling about Ryan Tannehill, where it's not even like, it's more concerning to me than just like a one-game sample size where 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, missed opportunities. It was the first time I came away feeling, this is something that seems like it's nearing the end faster than I might have anticipated that, You seem to not, how does that hit you? How does that strike you?
It's not what struck me yesterday. I suppose it makes sense. It's funny how in this era of football, it feels like when a quarterback was going into a season where he's 35 years old, he was probably already considered that, right? But with how the quarterback position has evolved, 35 almost seems
young now.
Yeah.
Because Rodgers is going to be 40.
Right.
Rivers played into his 40s, still trying to come back and play for the 49ers, apparently in the NFC Championship game, to hear Kyle Shanahan talk about it.
And Brady said, obviously, a ridiculous standard, but 35 doesn't seem that old for a quarterback.
But it is.
In this era. It used to be considered that.
I think it still should be. I think that the guys that we've named are outliers. I think that Breeze and Roethlisberger could have gone well before they actually did. It happened so suddenly. And again, it's one game. I'm willing, I'm not jumping ship, or I'm not going full-fledged into that opinion just yet. But it's the first time that it's hit me that way, where I'm looking at him and he's you remember Mike Vrabel talking about why they played the offensive line, and particularly Dillard, into the third quarter in the final preseason game. And he's talking about, well, there's just some consistency stuff that needs to be ironed out. There's some stuff that I think that we should be able to execute that we're simply not executing. And I'm watching a quarterback out there have the plays teed up for him that I've seen him execute a million times, and he's just missing. It can be a combination of things. It can be the Saints getting after him. The Saints were getting after him. It can be the poor offensive line in front of him. It can be, that it's the first time that he's played an NFL game since the Chargers, right? And I know that the preseason people will come out of the woodwork and say the preseason would have changed all this. I just don't. I'm willing to accept some of that, but I don't think that would have made the difference between Ryan Tannehill yesterday winning and losing, or throwing in 3 interceptions and not throwing 3 interceptions, or missing 2 clear and wide open touchdown passes, or hitting them, right?
But did we have any of these red flags during training camp?
No.
When we're watching team drills?
No.
That's why I'm more leaning towards keeping our powder dry. Titans have had week 1 debacles before.
I'm just saying it's the first observation. Not the first observation that came into my head, but it was something that I noticed, and then I started to feel it, and maybe that once that thought got into my head, maybe I was extrapolating it too far. I'm just saying it's the first time that it's hit me like that, where I'm seeing a player physically unable to execute the plays that he needs to.
That is the most glaring thing, right? The amount of plays that were right there in front of them.
Him.
Yeah, right there in front of him.
In front of him.
Yeah. I mean, it was Chig wide open on the flea flicker. Great play design. It was Tyjae Spears wide open down the left sideline. And did it feel like I know Vrabel got the question about it, that he was force feeding DeAndre Hopkins. Right?
Yeah.
The interception on the right sideline where it's underthrown, D-Hop is blanketed by 2 guys, completely double covered, as is Chris Moore on the deep throw interception, the one where Chig was open underneath. So just an uncharacteristic performance from Tannehill. I'm going to keep my powder dry on saying looked old, looked bad, looked uncharacteristic, but it'll be interesting against the Chargers defense that should be good but struggled mightily against the Dolphins offense yesterday. J.C. Jackson was getting torched all day yesterday. Be interesting to see how the Titans attack that secondary on Sunday and how Tannehill looks doing it.
615. Let's listen to DeAndre Hopkins. Speaking of DeAndre Hopkins being force-fed, let's hear from him in the locker room. I caught up with. There was only 4 of us left in the locker room by the time DeAndre Hopkins made his way in there after showering and putting himself back together. And this is what the new Titans wide receiver had to say about his first time out with the team.
We can't make excuses. I can't make excuses for myself. Obviously, I got to go out and do some things, better, and hold myself accountable.
How was the communication with Ryan, with you guys? Obviously, a couple of the targets ended up being intercepted, but overall, how was that communication?
It's our first game together. Both of us play a lot of ball. We can't look at this one and just get down. We got to move on. We got a good Chargers team coming up, and that's what we're on to.
You feel that you guys were on the same page, though?
Obviously, we lost. So I can't sit here and give a PSA announcement about being on the page or not on the page. We lost, so we didn't do something right enough.
We didn't do something right enough. I think if you'd have come out of that game or come into that game saying, Ryan Tannehill needs to force feed DeAndre Hopkins today. He needs to get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. He needs to find Hopkins early and often.
Be all right with that.
You said, okay. Until it looks like that. And then you're saying, well, wait, why are you force feeding Hopkins in the offense? Why aren't you spreading the ball out more? Why are you missing Burks and Spears? And so there's a both sides element to it that you have to keep into consideration. But I think that I don't know. That was the thing that I think would bother me most if I was a Titans fan. It's the misses as much as it is the interceptions. It's the physical deficiencies as much as it is the interceptions. The interception is the thing that killed you.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I made the point already.
Well, because the Titans were more pass heavy, and so the argument can be Ryan Tannehill's not the type of quarterback to rely on, to spread things out and rely on him solely to be the engine to move the offense up and down the field. We've talked about that, right? But this isn't that. This was him just missing wide open guys.
Bad footwork.
Yeah, just little things like that. It's not even about, like, we know Ryan Tannehill's not that guy.
I've never been concerned about him fundamentally.
Yeah, exactly. Just fundamental, basic, hitting wide open guys when it's there. To do it multiple times in one game was such an anomaly.
Weird.
Yeah, such an anomaly in his Titans career.
We'll see if that has any merit, but that was like, of the observations that I made yesterday, again, they're week one observations. Lucas is right to say, to hit me with the Coach Mack line, keep your powder dry. But
remember the meltdown Monday after the Arizona game, 2021, the year the Titans were the 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, it was more about Lawan.
It was all about the offensive line, right? I mean, that was everything on that Monday. But you thought, how could this team even be competitive this year with that offensive line? And they fixed it. This feels different because it's the quarterback, but it's week one.
It is different because it's the quarterback.
Sure.
It's substantially different because it's the quarterback. 615-737-1045. Uh-oh. Should we do it or should we wait?
Do it.
Darrington's up next.
Welcome to the party. I've been saying this for 2 years that this is a Nathaniel.
Yeah, but you were wrong for 2 years. You can't come here now. You were wrong for 2 years. Now you can't be right and then come back here and trumpet your success for 2 years. Get out of here.
Okay, hold on. You said I was wrong.
Yes.
Did he win a Super Bowl?
No.
Did he win a Super Bowl? Then I was not wrong.
Who else lost? Who else didn't make Super Bowls that year? Get out of here. Did he win a Super Bowl?
He's calling into Cincinnati radio station.
Oh, my God.
Did he win a Super Bowl?
Did he?
Hold on. All right. Is he top 10 quarterback?
No.
Okay, then. So what was I wrong about? Once again,
Russell Wilson.
What I'm saying.
You were wrong about Russell Wilson.
Hey, listen here. That river has been done. Yeah, they don't drain that tunnel real quick. He's still kissing babies. I think he might run for office next year. Who knows?
Be better at that.
Now they talking about. Remember, at the beginning of the year they wanted to get rid of Derrick. I think they were trying to get rid of the wrong person. Maybe if you get rid of this quarterback and actually did something, you would have been known to something. But hey, I was wrong for 2 years. I forgot. This is the team that likes to hold pep rallies for going to an AFC championship for a playoff game. Who would have ever thunk it? Ryan Nathaniel Tannehill. Don't forget. Go ask Cosell. He was never good at making out throws. He was never good at making deep passes. He is what he is. A middle of the pack, Matt Ryan. It's just that simple. I don't even think he's Matt Ryan worthy. Matt Ryan won the MVP. I don't even think he's been close. Anyway, I'll let you experts do what you guys do. Thank you.
Welcome back.
I haven't heard from him in a while.
Now it's football season, kids. Last call for phone calls, 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Rising, 1045 The Zone. Hey, there's a cool event that's getting ready to start their auction today. It's the Kick Childhood Cancer Fund that we are very happy to be teaming up with Nashville SC and Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital this month. It's a great campaign to kick childhood cancer. Fans and listeners can bid on unforgettable experiences with their favorite radio personalities and at Nashville SC matches at Geodis Park. Bid on these unforgettable experiences and items by visiting 1045thezone.com today. So I'm reading that for the first time, Lucas. Are we doing so? Like, are we on offer?
Yes, we are.
To do what?
Any show on 1045 The Zone. So there's different items you can bid on for different days. So today,
I'm not livestock.
Today you are. The station is providing a show of choice. If you're a business owner, you can bid on a live show from your business, any show on the station. Just today, you got to go to 1045thezone.com. If you go to the website, you're going to see a Kick Childhood Cancer sort of frame. And if you click on that, the pictures of me and Sissy Brown from 92Q hanging out with some patients at Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt. Click on that. It'll take you to a barcode that you can scan that you can bid on the, not just if you're a business owner, the live broadcast from your business. Nashville Soccer Club is providing an opportunity to get down on field level pre-match and watch both teams warm up when Nashville hosts Orlando City October 4th. And this includes 6 tickets to that match, just that match, October 4th, a Wednesday against Orlando City in an Eastern Conference matchup. So both of those things are being offered up in the auction. Go to 1045thezone.com. You'll see it at the front of the page, or you can scan that barcode and donate $10 a month to join the Kick Club. It all goes towards kicking childhood cancer. You can also text 615-488-4401 to get an opportunity to bid or to donate $10 a month or a one-time $120 donation. It all goes towards Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt.
Could you also donate the same amount to have us not show up and broadcast at your business? If you don't want us at your place of business, can you donate money and say, no, we don't want them there?
It all goes to a great cause.
Okay.
Absolutely. So next Monday, there's other, like Titan, the station is giving away Titans VIP passes. Nashville Soccer Club's giving away more stuff. But today, that is what you can bid on. The Nashville SC experience on the field pre-match, October 4th, and or a business owner if you want a show of your choice broadcasted live from your business. Or again, text 488-4401 to kick childhood cancer.
Scary Harry Flanagan says of my proposal to pay us to not show up at your place of business, he says that would be a better deal. Indeed.
It all goes to the same great cause.
Fine by us. Polls, please.
Oh, I wasn't ready.
Oh, Nelly, this is Keith Jackson talking about college football. It's time to stop the count. The polls have closed, and the granddaddy of them all has been tallied with your poll update. Oh, Nelly, talking about Buck Rising show producer and daily correspondent, Lucas Panzica.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty new Ford. What was the biggest concern from the Titans' loss? Sammy says Ryan Tannehill throwing like late career Phillip Rivers.
Well, that speaks to that age stuff that I'm talking about. I think the biggest concern for me was not the turnovers. The turnovers are why they lost the game, but the reason why they might lose more is because I think that quarterback is depreciating in front of us.
Darren says the offensive line.
It wasn't good. I mean, Skoronski was fine. Dillard, I thought, got better. He was bad
struggled
in the first half.
Yeah.
Dillard, I thought, got better. The pressure was there. The offensive line situation is, to me, what we thought it was. They are who we thought they were.
Jimmy says how uncomfortable Ryan Tannehill looked, the biggest concern.
Uncomfortable and old.
Which quarterback had the worst week 1 performance in the NFL? I thought that this was just going to be a bunch of replies saying Ryan Tannehill. It's actually a bunch of replies saying Daniel Jones.
I mean, that's the right answer. Like, you think Saquon somewhere in the back of his head is like, I'm glad it's only 1 year now. That's fine. I'll go somewhere else.
No,
I don't want a long-term deal.
Keep your powder dry.
No. It's not one game. It's not one game for either of them. It's the worst game of Ryan Tannehill's career. It's the worst game. That might be the worst game a professional quarterback has ever put out in any setting.
Feels like yesterday the Packers were blown out like 35-3 at home to the Saints to open the season. And then marched to the NFC Championship.
40-0, Lucas.
One game.
40-0
game. Yes, everything went wrong. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong for the Giants. Sometimes that's going to happen. I don't think the New York Giants are going to go 2-15 because of it.
I do.
What change do you need to see from the offense in week 2? Dane says just get in the end zone. Lindsay says Tannehill's awareness, offensive line improvement, and better balance of play calling. Need more running. Who knew, she says.
I swear to God, I was getting ready to tweet. I don't care who scores a touchdown. Just one of you score a touchdown. And then soon enough, right before I was getting ready to hit send on the tweet, the Saints did.
Charles says play calling. It's such a torn feeling, I feel like, when evaluating Tim Kelly's play calling, because it's give Henry the ball more, give Henry the ball more. And yes, but also the plays were all there.
Hit the plays.
They were right there.
Yeah.
Nobody would be screaming, give Henry the ball more if one of the Chig or Tajay connections happened when they're both wide open.
Oh, I bet somebody'd still call in here and say, why didn't they run Derrick Henry more on first down? And then I'd go jump.
Tennessee fans, how are you taking the performance against Austin Peay? 54% say they're slightly concerned. 28% very concerned. 18% saying, I'm not worried, just an off day. Looking ahead to Florida.
No, you can't walk into, or you can't host Austin Peay as a damn near a 50-point favorite, put up 30 on them, and let them score 13 on you.
Hey, credit Austin Peay. They came to play. They were fired up for that game. Tennessee's offense, sloppy.
Yeah. I was watching I guess it would have been Colorado and Nebraska were on earlier in the day.
11 a.m.
And then Tennessee came on between
4 o'clock.
In the the earlier afternoon slate. So somebody told me that they were only up like 20-6 or something on Austin Peay. I was like, wait, somebody give me my phone. I need to find where the hell SEC Plus is now.
It was a struggle, man, but great college football slate on Saturday.
Yes, and we will talk about that more with Michael Felder of Stadium. We'll do the Alabama-Texas game. We'll talk about Nebraska, Nebraska, Colorado. Damn it, I've mixed that up twice now. Either way, Felder will be here to explain what happened in the weekend of college football. Corey Curtis be here too, and you know who else? Titans great, Hall of Famer, now Lipscomb head football coach, Kevin Mawai is going to join us tomorrow on the radio show. Looking forward to that. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Primetime tonight at 8. If I don't see you there, got you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Blaine and Mickey are next.